Hey everybody, Marlene here. On May 9th, 2019, the Real Estate Council of BC posted on its website the result of a consent order I very reluctantly agreed to earlier this year. A complaint was made to council from a buyer I had represented in 2016. I believe the role of council is supposed to be to protect the consumer. In this case, there was no harm done to the consumer, my buyer. Other than that, he was not returned his deposit from the RE/MAX trust account after he reneged on completion of his purchase. This action by council was not about protecting the consumer, it was about discrediting a realtor. Professional misconduct is an ugly, ugly accusation, and one I did not agree to without a lot of consideration and stress. So why did I agree to a consent order? Because of the bullying tactics used by counsel and their lawyer. I was told if the complaint went to a hearing, the potential costs could be tens of thousands of dollars. I could be responsible for an all-expense-paid trip for my buyer, who was vacationing in the desert, to attend the hearing, and was told if I did not consent, said lawyer would also recommend a suspension of my license. Which would you have chosen? And to you realtors, I hope you're never in the position to have to decide. I have been licensed for 23 years and have never had a complaint filed against me. I have no doubt made mistakes, but I have never done anything with malicious intent to hurt a client or benefit myself. I have always performed my duties with my client's best interest at heart, always. I have always held myself to the highest professional and ethical behavior in dealing with both my clients and my colleagues, to which many would attest. These are the circumstances. The purchaser in question is a retired lawyer. Let's give him a name as the legal world does when referring to a plaintiff. We will call him Bench for the rest of this story. Bench was looking to purchase a condo in the building in which we live, my husband Blake Roberts and I. He called me when he saw a unit we had listed for sale. I did not call him and ask him if he wanted to purchase in this building. Be very clear, he called me. In that first phone conversation, I explained that I lived in the building and was also on Strata Council. Bench relayed at the time that he thought this beneficial to him and agreed to work with me in finding a suitable condo in my building, as he had been looking for a while. Fast forward. The initial condo Bench called on sold. Another condo came up for sale, and I called Bench to let him know and asked if he would like to see it, as many realtors would. He came, he saw, he liked it, and he wrote an offer. All was good. Or at least I thought it was, and until it came time for him to make his deposit. The contract stated deposit due upon final subject to removal. Bench removed subjects, waived a home inspection, and gave his deposit. 2 days late, I might add. Then Bench, a retired lawyer of 30 years, who no doubt, and who continually reminded me of the law, knew the contract to purchase was legal and binding. However, he refused to complete on the purchase and demanded his deposit back. As most realtors know, a deposit is usually made out to the selling brokerage and held in the company's trust account as a stakeholder. Bench refused to make the check to RE/MAX Kelowna in trust, as stated on the contract. His reasoning for this would take another hour to explain. I, however, immediately got my broker involved. Eventually, Bench relented when his own lawyer, after making an apology to us regarding his client's behavior, instructed him to write the deposit check as per the contract. I will now address the 4 points of misconduct that the Real Estate Council of BC has accused me of. I'm going to address them in reverse order, so if you've seen it on their website, it's reversed. That I acted as a member of Strata Council without making written notice to my managing broker at RE/MAX that I was on Strata Council. This gray area, as referred to by the Real Estate Council lawyer in a phone conversation, which I wish I would have recorded, is a minor mistake. In any event, I would argue that this merited a letter of caution rather than the Real Estate Council of BC attempting to discredit me. Note, my broker assured council he was always aware of my being on strata and was unaware himself that it needed to be in writing and delivered. Council does acknowledge this in the full consent order, but council only prints the charges in big bold letters. So if you really want the truth, check out the full consent order, because they're not going to tell you. I acted as a member of the Strata Council without written disclosure to the Strata Council. Guilty as charged under the letter of the rule, in that nothing was in writing. However, our Strata Council president provided written confirmation in my defense that Strata Council and all owners in attendance at an AGM knew full well that I was a licensed realtor. My being a realtor was one of the reasons the owners elected me to the Strata Council. My being a realtor, I sent this information to the BC Real Estate Council. Again, they acknowledged it in my consent order, but of course, once again, they don't put this information in their publication in big bold letters, only the charges. Again, perhaps a letter informing and reminding brokers and licensees that this is mandatory would have served a greater purpose than using something so non-significant to discredit a realtor. Next, that I permitted the buyer to enter an agreement to purchase the property, which provided that an inspection of the property by the buyer was not to occur until after the date for subject removal, and that I failed to inform the buyer that the agreement would not be conditional upon this inspection. Long explanation, so bear with me. This offer, subject removal date was for May 30th for all subjects, including a home and property inspection. All of our offers include standard clauses, so there is never a subject clause forgotten. We protect our buyers in any contracts we write. In this particular contract, Bench asked to have a term included in the contract that allowed him to access the vacant condo on June 11th and 16th to, and I quote, perform measurements, take photos, and inspect. A term is different than a subject. Note that the June 11 and 16 dates for photos, etc. were after the May 30th subject removal date and after Bench provided the deposit upon final subject removal. It is my belief that at no time did Bench consider this term a subject. This, of course, until he decided he wanted out of the contract. It was on one of those visits in June that Bench noticed a very slight smell coming from the laundry room. Remember, the place was vacant. As we live in this condo building, we know a vacant condo can develop a slight smell if left vacant for some time and water is not run in the suite. We've experienced this ourselves when we are away for a few weeks. The problem is rectified by simply running water down the sewer drain. We directed the Bench to the building manager, who confirmed what we explained. And if you ask dozens of owners in our building, Bench spoke to a few, who go away for weeks at a time, they will confirm this as well. Bench, however, would not listen to anyone and would not consult his own plumbing experts as we advised. Both myself and the listing realtor received emails accusing the seller of a cover-up and that the condo was, and I quote Bench, open to raw feces, urine, and other bodily fluids, according to a string of emails he sent. Phone calls and emails were exchanged as Bench continued to expound on his belief that the condo was contaminated. On June 15th, Bench sent an email to his lawyer that the condo was uninhabitable and that the tenants in the building and the Department of Health should be notified. Over the next few days, Bench continued to insist the condo was not livable in and that the seller should rectify the problem. Bench was assured by so many people there was nothing to rectify, yet refused to have his own expert on site for an opinion. We are attaching Bench's official complaint to the Real Estate Council of BC so that you can all read about it. That the property was uninhabitable, that there were latent defects. there are not any latent defects in this building. To this day, the building in question is 100% healthy, and the occupants, as far as I can see, are pretty healthy and happy too. Bench's complaint was a rambling string of nonsense in this realtor's opinion. And I'm surprised council didn't see it as such. Since Bench walked away from his contract, 41 sales have taken place in this building. There has been no need to call the health authorities, and all who live here, again, including us, are pretty healthy. Hey, Blake? On June 23rd, I said to Bench in an email, if he didn't intend to complete the sale, that was to take place July 6th, he should let me know so the seller could be advised and we could proceed from there. He didn't do that. He just disappeared. Bench argued with his own lawyer, who on June 27th informed us via an email that, and I quote, given our client has more than 30 years of experience as a litigation lawyer, he is more than capable of handling this matter. So he asked me, and I have agreed, to step aside. His lawyer was smarter than I was. I should have stepped aside a long time ago. Bench never said he wasn't removing a subject. He never indicated the offer was still hinging on subjects, because this practicing lawyer of 30 years knew full well he had removed all subjects previously and paid his deposit upon final subject removal May 2nd, 2 days late. The date of closing, July 6th, came and went, and where was Bench? Nowhere to be found. Neither myself nor his lawyer were able to locate him for days, and the sale eventually, of course, collapsed. Eventually, Bench resurfaced sometime later, crawled out of his hole, asking for his deposit back from the seller, who I believe rightfully refused. Now, this brings us back to the charge from the Real Estate Council that we provided for an inspection after the date of subject removal and did not make the sale contingent on that. You know, at first I didn't understand council's charge because we knew that the date for subject removal, including home inspection, was May 30th. Finally realized after further communication with council's lawyer that we had placed the term that the buyer would be allowed back in before completion on the same page far below the subject clauses. Note, the term was in a different font and size as it was added during counter stage, not as a subject, but as a term. Now, in the case of an unsophisticated buyer, we might say it could be confusing. Although what is not confusing and made very clear upon initial offer to each and every one of our buyers, not just Bench, is when the deposit is due. It is on the first page of the contract in bold letters. It is due upon final subject removal, or within 24 hours of subject removal, or within 48 hours of subject removal, but it is on the first page of the contract. In this case, we are dealing with a lawyer who boasted of decades of experience as a lawyer, who overruled his own lawyer because he believed he knew better, who gave a deposit after final subject removal and not before. Bench knew full well the future dates for pictures and measuring and inspection was a term and not a subject, or this very knowledgeable retired lawyer would not have provided a deposit. How the council did not see that is absolutely beyond me.
They didn't want to see
They didn't want to see it. Bench disappeared on closing because he got cold feet. Simple as that. He then looked for an out, and fair enough, I aired and gave it to him. But let's be clear, Bench walked away from a contract he knew as a 30-year lawyer was firm and binding. The last charge from Real Estate Council is a conflict of interest charge. I am accused of selling a condo in the building where I reside. Guilty, no defense. I have sold a few. I will now put in every contract. Buyer is aware that I own a unit in the Centuria, 1160 Bernard Avenue, Kelowna, British Columbia. And I will continue to sell in this building because I believe it to be great value, offers great amenities. The units are spacious compared to the new build, and dollar for dollar, one of the best values in Kelowna. This conflict of interest charge came as a result of Bench stating I was selling him a unit in Centuria because I own here and was merely trying to increase the value of my own unit. Let me remind you, he called me. I did not reach out to him. Because he was looking to purchase in Centuria specifically because he has friends living here. I did not approach him first. In my response to council on this charge, one of the things I asked is, if we can't sell in our building because it's a conflict of interest, can I sell my neighbor's house if I live in a subdivision? If I work an area because I live in it and know it better than any other realtor does that give my buyer an advantage or a disadvantage? Tell me you're working for the consumer, BC Real Estate Council. Or will a realtor be accused of trying to raise the value of their own home? Where is the consumer served best? By somebody who knows the area and the building, or by somebody that doesn't? I live in a building with 153 neighbors. This is my hood. The only difference is that we all live under one roof. I believe living in Centuria, knowing the building and the area better than someone who doesn't live here is a benefit to my buyer, as Bench thought it was when he hired me. I have been a realtor for 23 years, and this is the first complaint filed against me. Realtors make mistakes and should be accountable for those mistakes. When I make a mistake, I do everything I can to make it right for my client. I am human and have made mistakes, no doubt we all have. My only mistake here is not cutting Bench loose as a client at the beginning when he argued about the deposit and the trust accounts. Red flag, major red flag. The Real Estate Council of BC, which is government run, should protect the public from unscrupulous realtors. It is my assertion, and I am not alone here, that while the council protects the public from the so-called rotten apples, it is also on a witch hunt, which is unfair to the large majority of realtors who work hard and care about their clients, me being one of those. In my case, I have documented evidence of an irrational buyer who walked away from a deal. I provided perfectly logical evidence to defend myself in the preliminary stages, but to no avail. I quote a line in the council letter in response to my evidence. In the event this matter is not resolved and proceeds to a hearing, I may be seeking a suspension in addition to other elements set out above. Please note that the costs of a discipline hearing, and I'm quoting directly from a letter, please note that the costs of a discipline hearing are awarded in accordance with Regulation 4.2. You guys can look it up. This includes a daily fee for the hearing, other disbursements such as witness expenses, and the hourly costs of legal counsel for preparation and attendance at the hearing, and of course my own lawyer. It is rare for a single day hearing to incur costs of less than $10,000, and I certainly expect the cost of this hearing to substantially exceed that. The result is that the costs awarded you in a discipline hearing would be greater than the discipline penalty and costs sought in a resolution. Thank you very much. I would have to be pretty stupid to go to a hearing to defend myself after reading that, wouldn't I? In conclusion, I'll admit these things. I will admit these things. I did not put in writing my involvement with my strata council to my buyer or my broker. I've learned. But both were aware of my position on the strata council of the Centuria. Shame, shame, shame. Anybody recognize that from GOT? Shame on the Real Estate Council of BC for not making this an opportunity to educate, instead of using it as an opportunity to discredit and humiliate. Shame. Some may question that I'm responding to council's posted consent order attached to my name. I'm questioning myself as well. However, as the Real Estate Council of BC sees fit to discredit good realtors while it punishes the bad realtors, with recent trends of consent orders arriving in the hands of media, I feel I have no choice but to speak up and defend my reputation. I believe and expect I should have this right. Thanks for watching, guys. Any questions, I'll answer them all.